Hello and welcome to the Stronger Than My Excuses show. This is part of a series, Imagine Challenging the Status Quo. Our topic for this discussion is inclusion as a business strategy. I'm Maree Jenner. I'm a Community Engagement Local Area Coordinator for Social Futures here on the Central Coast. I'll be the host for the panel discussion today, and as I said to you, we're coming to you from the Central Coast, New South Wales. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on First Nations land, and the land is of the Darkinjung. I'd also like to acknowledge the care that they have taken looking after this land for thousands of years, and also to acknowledge Aboriginal elders past, present and emerging, and any Aboriginal people with us today and also viewing online. We have a great panel for our discussion today, so allow me to introduce our guests. Please welcome Karen Anson, Principal Lawyer and Founder of Ignite HR and Employment Law. Welcome, Karen.
Few fans out there.
Few fans. Jacob Smeaton, he's the Project Support Officer at Barang Regional Alliance. Welcome, Jacob. Annabel Leete, Industry Program Manager, PTEC Central Coast, ANZ. And Chloe Hyde, and Chloe is responsible for sustainability at TrendPac here on the Central Coast. Welcome to the show, everyone. The show's about action, not excuses. Our aim is to give viewers action so they can gain ideas for their own businesses to be more inclusive. Every show we will wrap up with actions. As you're watching on YouTube or other social media, please ask questions and we'll answer as quickly as possible. I'd like to thank all the sponsors of the show, and you'll see their logos below on the screen. Thanks for showing your support for the many minority groups and for the businesses who want to include them. Okay, so we've got a series of questions that we will cover, and I'm just going to tell you what they are. It's looking at how can we be genuine in our business, our marketing, and gain the trust of our prospects. Does being an inclusive business support our authentic message, and how? What type of leadership does it take to make this a success? And what are the advantages of having a diverse workforce? One of the reasons I joined this panel is to help change the thinking around disability and for people from different minority groups. But first, I'd like to talk about the barriers that pose a challenge to people in achieving their own career goals. I'd like to hear from each of you what you think might hold employers back for recruiting staff from minority groups. Karen, I know you have experience hiring someone with a disability. What are your thoughts on this?
So I basically have a team that works with me. They're a mixture of HR and legal people. And I guess when I talk about challenge, I felt very challenged coming into the legal profession as an older person. I'd done my degree in my 40s and was looking at starting a new career on my own, and having, worked in government jobs and that kind of thing. And so last year, actually it was the year before, I connected with a group in Newcastle who introduced me to the concept of having someone with a disability on my team, and connected me with Joseph, who's he's a legal intern, but he actually was admitted to the Supreme Court on Friday last week, so we supported his admission. So that was really exciting for him.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So Joseph has cerebral palsy. He has a lot of challenges in terms of communication. But the one thing that I realised that he was explaining to me why people like him have challenges getting work. It hadn't occurred to me until I spoke to him. And he said, just even getting to the interview sometimes is a challenge. you have to check, is there access, is there toilets, is there all of the things that challenge him daily. And it hadn't occurred to me before. And so my working model is a hybrid model. He works from home most of the time, but we very, very often get together, out. He loves being able to come on site. He loves being able to do, the online training and things that we offer, and also the hearings and things like that. So, yeah, from the perspective of the question that you asked, I think what puts people off, what I wasn't concerned about it, but he was the one that explained to me why he thinks people have a challenge with it, and those are the sorts of things that he experienced. Yeah.
And that's wonderful to hear in relation to the flexibility that you took on board in relation to his needs and being able to, and that's because COVID showed us so much about being able to adapt and the changes that we needed to make. But
absolutely.
Thank you. Jacob, what challenges exist for Aboriginal people trying to enter the workforce, do you think, on the Central Coast?
Well, I think from my point of view, it is similar to the original question we had around, it was something around employers needing to help Aboriginal people get employment. Mm-hmm. And sort of that question comes from a deficit viewpoint, that we're needy people, that we need help requiring employment, but it's actually more about workplaces working on themselves to make themselves more safer for Aboriginal people to work in. And it's deficit narratives are dominant about our people across all the community. You see it in the news that we are, a disadvantaged people, we are this and that, all these negative connotations of our people that sort of drive non-Indigenous people to already have preconceived thoughts about us. But what you don't hear about is our, massive networks that we have of mob across the country. You don't hear about our resilience as a people and those sort of positive things that can bring positives into the workplace. And it's about also, as I said before, workplaces being safer for Aboriginal people. A lot of people talk about cultural safety, but what does that look like? It's not like just a few bits of art in the foyer, it's about genuine commitment to the Aboriginal community, and it's about, offering things that, like cultural leave for sorry business, and that sort of thing that come from our ways of knowing, doing and being, and that are important to us, and being understanding of our cultural differences because they're a strength, not a weakness.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's really good. And some of the comments you've just said then in relation to the network development and the resilience really resonates with me, being a person with lived experience of disability, because of my resilience that I have as a result of living my life, and also the networking and community side within the disability community. But I really resonate with that and value that, I think, on that side.
Sorry, to add on to it also, with that comes, often higher workload. Aboriginal staff and stuff are expected to do more than their normal workload and the workload of others to cover, Aboriginal programs and reconciliation action plans. Yeah. But we can't expect that as employers to be done on a volunteer basis. Yeah. You wouldn't expect non-Indigenous people to work on these things on a volunteer basis, but we're expected to do it. So it's about adequately, compensating our people for that, and that's economic development.
Absolutely. Economic. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Annabel, what are your thoughts on the barriers young people face when looking for work or getting into the workforce?
Yeah, thanks, Maree. I think there are a lot of barriers out there, probably too many to cover off today, but what I really wanted to focus on from a youth perspective is helping them to really understand what industry looks like, what engagement looks like in an organisation, what does the culture look like, what roles are available, what career opportunities are available. And there's so many great programs on the Central Coast that are really working with the education system to help build those insights and those understandings for youth. And this is where, one of those programs is the one that I run, which is PTEC, the IBM PTEC program. And that is with the purpose to connect industry with education, with further education, to really help the youth to get job ready. So when they are ready to leave school and start their career, that they're going to be employable. They understand what they're going to be walking into as well. And the PTEC how does PTech do that? We do that through mentoring, where we're bringing in industry mentors, where they help them to build those soft skills, give them career advice and insights as about what's it like to work in an organisation. It's about giving them industry guest speakers, so coming in and talking about industry-specific roles, their careers. We also partner with industries where the industry partners will give these students, these PTech students, opportunities to go on sites and even to go into work experience opportunities, to be given the opportunity to be in first in line for jobs when they do leave schools as well. So what I would say in summary is that, I'd really encourage all businesses to, find these youth programs that are available, because it can be so beneficial to your organisation, not only from a bottom line perspective, but also from succession planning and engagement as well.
Yeah, no, excellent. Yeah, absolutely, because we're always, there was a manufacturing expo held here last year, which is actually where Chloe and I met, and I noticed that one day they had specifically was for the young people to come in and to introduce them to, and the early side of it is so important to start there. That's great. Chloe. Okay, so TrendPac has over 200 employees and you have an inclusion policy in place. What do you see as the main challenges that people from minority groups face in the workplace or entering the workforce?
Yeah, you're right, Maree. TrendPac does employ over 200 people. So we have a wide range of people applying for jobs across lots of different departments. And you can imagine that brings people from different cultural backgrounds and different walks of life. So it's hard to pick one barrier that will apply to all these different groups of people, all these individuals. But one example of a barrier that came up just the other day as I was speaking to Mitch, our People and Culture manager at TrendPac, he was running an interview for a job opening for an electrical engineer. And a young person applied from overseas, from Iran, and this Iranian person was acquired a master's degree overseas, is overqualified for the role, but unfortunately was not able to get the job because his master's degree is not recognised in Australia. So I believe that a barrier for some minority groups is a lack of recognition of skills.
Yeah, absolutely, of the qualifications that they have acquired.
And that can apply to lots of different minority groups.
Absolutely.
Whether that's people with disabilities, Indigenous folk, people from overseas, people seeking a better life in Australia, people seeking to just improve their career. So it can impact anyone.
Yep. No, that's excellent. I'd met Chloe here at the expo and we ended up going out because Chloe then contacted me after the expo because she was looking at increasing the inclusion and developing career pathways for people with disability, which really made me smile and very happy. So it's wonderful. So, okay, thank you very much for that. How do we see how does a diverse workforce help employers improve the bottom line, and what type of leadership does this take to make this happen? Annabel, we'll start with you this time.
Yes, so I'm going to probably answer that question just a little bit differently around how government and private organisations can financially support diversity in the workplace. And if I can just give a little bit of a brief background as to how did PTech come here in Australia, because it's a program that commenced in the United States. So it was launched in 2016 and it was actually funded by the Australian federal government. They actually invested $5.1 million to establish 13 PTech schools across Australia, and which they did that very successfully. Then IBM actually took over the program, and now they have taken on the financial commitment to the PTEC program, and PTEC sits under their CSR, or their Corporate Social Responsibility division. And it's around giving back to those communities. It actually funds me to go out there and really bridge that gap between education and industry, to give everybody in youth these opportunities that they may not have. And it's not only youth with the program, it's also about giving those low socioeconomic areas, or those students that may be less advantaged than others, to get them into well-paying careers and jobs as well. So without the funding and the support and having the diversity or a diversity policy or CSR function, we wouldn't be able to go out and deliver these awesome programs to really help our future generations.
Yeah, and as we heard this morning, a lot about sustainability.
Yeah.
And this is what we want. So it's working together. Karen?
I had some notes that I wanted to, because I wanted to really challenge people's thinking around this.
This one?
Yeah.
All right. Did you want me to ask what type of leadership, or do you want to...
Well, I want to just quickly touch on a couple of points that I put together that people may not have thought of around why consider having people from diverse backgrounds and people with disabilities in their organisations. I'll just quickly... So some of the points that I think are important for people to consider are the improved innovation and creativity from the bringing of people from diverse backgrounds into your organisation, that you would not normally have solutions to things that you may not have thought of before. Enhanced customer relations, because there's relatability for your clients from all walks of life. Increased employee morale, which is really an important area in HR and employment law that I see. That is one of the benefits. Another is reputation and brand image in terms of being an inclusive employer. We've talked about corporate social responsibility earlier today, and how important that is for people to be seen, to be doing things that are, promoting positivity. And the other one was access to new talent pools. And we all know how challenging recruitment is at the moment. So opening up to different people from diverse backgrounds is important. In terms of leadership, just quickly, I have to admit I have struggled. Leadership is as everyone who's a leader, in all areas of my leadership, I've had to challenge myself at times around some of my thinking, and saying, and opening up to different ways of thinking and sharing my concerns and asking questions that you never thought you'd have to ask of people. And you think, is this a conversation I really want to have right now? But you have to, because it's important to understand where people are coming from. You can't make assumptions about anybody.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's always great. I really appreciate if I'm in an interview and someone, they don't make an assumption, but they let that person tell them how they can do the job. That's their story, and how they do it is going to be very different to how someone else does it. 100%. And that's the other benefit, is that if we all were the same, as I say to the children in the school inclusion program I do, it'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it? What that brings, all of us bring. Okay, so thank you for that. And Jacob. So we're thinking here in relation to the Voice to Parliament, and whether that will assist Aboriginal employment and economic participation. And what are your thoughts on this, and how do you see the Voice changing leadership culture?
Well, I think the Voice, not only does it include us on a national scale within Parliament in terms of economic policy and all ranges of policy that affects us, it also will be on a community level as well. And we've seen in the practical application of Barang as a governance structure, elevating the community's voice to government, it means that services can be held accountable. Those that are doing services for Aboriginal people in terms of economic development and these things, who aren't actually doing the job, and we can, realign that funding to Aboriginal community-controlled organisations. We can work towards initiatives that are actually made by Aboriginal people, because when we're working with our own people and we're servicing our own people and developing our own policies for our people, we're the ones with living experiences. It's more effective. And I think that's how it won't just be a national thing. It's, as we've seen in our community, we've seen the growth of our Aboriginal medical service from I don't know, probably around like 40 staff to around 90. And they now own their own building. We've seen our land council grow. We've seen everything while Barang's been sitting at the table, and so much money that would get lost in translation has been able to be refunneled into our community orgs and actually get to our people, not get lost in translation.
Yeah, but that's really important message again in relation to everyone at the table and nothing about us without us.
Exactly.
This sort of thing. So it's the person with the lived experience giving input and that in that regard. So that's great. Chloe, how is your leadership team being inclusive?
Look, our leadership team at TrendPac is inclusive across all levels of the business. So every interaction that our leadership team has with the individual staff that work at TrendPac, they treat them with respect and equally. That's pretty standard and expected, I think. But it goes a bit further than that. We host barbecues where the leadership team are, flipping sausages. So there's a platform for communication and collaboration, and there's just sort of there's a social, element to work, which I think is really important. But lastly, and most importantly, I think our leadership team is really good at pushing an inclusive agenda throughout our business by promoting and supporting collaborative career pathway design with local groups such as Barang and Social Futures. So there's plenty of different ways our leadership team is being inclusive.
That's great. It really puts a big smile on my face, as you can see, because everything that we've discussed, it gives me goosebumps, like you were saying today, Karen, when we talk about things like this, because diversity and inclusion, diversity and what we bring, like I said, is so much there, and there's so many good opportunities and that to contribute to make the world a better place. It's wonderful. For our final question today, we've talked about some of the barriers, but also the benefits of having people across our whole community. The people in the community be represented within the employment side of things. What are your key points or practical steps for our businesses here that they can implement genuine and inclusive strategies within their business? So this time, are you happy to start, Jacob?
Cool. What I'd say from an Aboriginal perspective is be involved with the Aboriginal community, go to community events, connect with people, make contributions, whether that's not, that doesn't have to be financially, that can be your time, that can be your services, that can be just you being there, but it's a genuine commitment to the cause of supporting our communities. And I think also accountability, like a lot of big organisations are developing reconciliation action plans. They're pretty much a buzz over the past couple of years, but they're only effective if communities say they're effective, because we're the ones who they're for. So just ensuring that you're accountable to the Aboriginal community if you're providing services and you're trying to support the Aboriginal community.
Great, thank you very much. We'll go with Karen next.
Very short, challenge your thinking is my advice to people, around inclusiveness. Challenge your thinking. Yep. Because that's where it starts.
Exactly, yeah. This is a challenge for me today, sit here in this.
You've done amazing.
It's got me out of it.
I knew you would do it.
So, and Annabel.
Yeah, so similar to my fellow panellists, and if I again come from a youth perspective, is embrace youth and what they can bring. Don't be afraid of that. Challenge the status quo, shall we say. If your business isn't structured, perhaps look at structuring your business on how you can bring those youth in. As I mentioned before, it can really impact and give you a positive bottom line. It can also improve your engagement and your culture by giving your employees, succession planning and career development opportunities and development and all those wonderful fuzzy words that I can use. But it's also then enabling your staff to go out there and join some programs that's out there, some amazing programs. It's not only PTech that's out there, so there's other organisations that are working with education to, really help the students to get job ready as well. So, and that can be very, very rewarding. And have a look at perhaps your CSR policy, and if you've got one, is it relevant, is it relatable, and things like that. So there's so much that organisations can do.
Great. Chloe?
Yeah, I was going to say that businesses need to be open to differences, and by doing that you get a range of diverse perspectives and experiences working on solutions that might never get solved if we don't get different brains in or different bodies in. That way we build a community of people who are engaged and want to show up to work every day.
Yeah. And my one is value diversity, which I think is what we've been saying. Now, lastly, I'd like to ask you all for one word to wrap up the actions we spoke about. One word that is an action that viewers can take away from this show. One word, okay? Annabel?
Well, I was going to say PTech, but I think that might be a bit cheesy. So I'm going to say embrace.
Great. Thank you. Jacob?
I'll say, in the current climate of the world, voice.
Karen?
Oh, I like the word happiness. I don't know, something about joy. More than one word. Just bring joy to your workplace. In terms of challenging, the way you would normally look at things. Yeah, I haven't got one word. I've got one word
it was a bit hard. I thought, oops, I just did. And Chloe?
I'm going to say open-mindedness, which is hyphenated, so it still counts as one word.
I've been a little bit cheeky too, and mine's a win-win. So win for the business and win for the people, whether they be the customers or the staff, if we're inclusive. Yeah. That can certainly, with a hyphen as well.
All of these had hyphens.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank you all for your insights and contributions. What incredible information for the viewers. And also thanks again to our sponsors for supporting this discussion today. Remember, you can watch us through YouTube and other social media to ask a question, as the panel will be available to respond to you. Share with anyone you think that would benefit from this show. I hope you'll watch again next time as we tackle other issues and come up with more actions for our viewers. Thanks again to our guest, to Annabel Leete, Industry Program Manager, PTech, Central Coast, IBM, Australia and NZ, Jacob Smeaton, Project Support Officer from Barang, Regional Alliance, Karen Anson, Principal Lawyer and Founder, Ignite HR and Employment Law, and Chloe Hyde, Sustainability and PR, TrendPac. Thank you very much, everybody, and I'm Maree Jenner. Thank you for watching Stronger Than My Excuses show. See you next time.